There was an old man named Mohan Lal, who was about 62 years old. His wife had passed away many years ago. He had only one son, Rajiv, who had gone to Dubai for work after getting married. Shortly after his marriage, Rajiv left his wife at his father's place in the village and went abroad. Now only Mohan Lal and his daughter-in-law Sanjana were living in the house. Rajiv visited only once a year. The rest of the time, Sanjana and Mohan Lal lived together in the large courtyard of the house, enduring their own loneliness. One morning, Sanjana placed tea on the dining table for her father-in-law. Mohan Lal, lifting his teacup, gestured for her to sit with him. After a while, in a serious tone, he said, "Daughter, I have become very tired of living alone. I can't bear this loneliness anymore. I am thinking of remarrying. After all, how long can I live alone?" Sanjana was momentarily stunned but smiled and replied, "Oh, father-in-law, who would marry you at this age? And why do you worry about it? You're not alone. I am here with you. So why the worry?" Mohan Lal sighed and said, "You're here in the house, but there is no one to make my heart happy. This loneliness is unbearable." Sanjana smiled softly and responded, "Father-in-law, why are you saying such things with me here? I also understand how difficult it is to live alone. Rajiv has been in Dubai for a long time now. He only comes once a year. I too often feel lonely and empty." "I feel it too." Saying this, she lowered her gaze, and an odd silence fell over the room. Then they both slowly walked to the living room, where the conversation deepened. As they were sitting, Mohan Lal suddenly sighed deeply and said, "Daughter Sanjana, I am no longer as young as I used to be. When your mother-in-law was alive, we kept each other happy. We were each other's support. But now those days have become nothing but memories." Sanjana gently replied, "Why do you say this, father-in-law? You still look like a young man. Your face and spirit are still strong." Then suddenly she stood up and said, "Please wait here for a while. I'll bring something special for you." She hurried to the kitchen, quickly brewed tea, but this time she added some medicine to it. The aroma of the tea was mixed with a strange seriousness in the air. Soon after, Sanjana returned to the room with a cup of milk tea. Mohan Lal, gazing at the cup, asked in astonishment, "What have you brought me? Will this make me strong again? Will it bring my youth back?" Sanjana smiled softly and replied, "You're absolutely right. I have mixed a special medicine in this. Once you drink it, the old strength will return to you." Mohan Lal curiously asked, "What kind of medicine is this? What is this magical thing that will bring my youth back?" Sanjana gently said, "First drink it, then you will see the effect yourself." Without further delay, Mohan Lal quickly took the cup and drank it in one gulp. Before he could even feel its effect, Sanjana's phone rang. It was Rajiv, her husband. Sanjana picked up the phone and stepped out of the room to speak in peace. On the other end, Rajiv happily said, "Sanjana, I'll be home in 2 to 3 days." Sanjana was taken aback and replied, "What? You usually only come once a year. How come you're coming now?" Rajiv laughed and said, "There's a 2-month break at my office, so I thought I would come home and spend some time with everyone." Sanjana softly replied, "Okay, that's great news." Rajiv quickly asked, "How is my father?" Sanjana answered in a soft voice, "Your father was just calling me into the room." After talking for a while, Sanjana hung up the call and returned to the room. She entered the room and saw that Mohan Lal was fast asleep on the bed. His face reflected peace and tranquility, as if he had found rest after many years. The evening had fallen, and a strange calm had settled over the house. That night after dinner, Sanjana went to her room and went to sleep. The next morning, as the sun's rays spread across the courtyard, she went to make tea for her father-in-law. As soon as Mohan Lal saw her, he joyfully said, "Daughter, today I feel very light and happy. The taste of the milk tea you gave me yesterday was amazing." Sanjana smiled and replied, "I'm glad you liked it, father-in-law." Just then, the doorbell rang. When she went to answer the door, she found Rajiv had arrived. Sanjana joyfully hugged her husband, and the house was filled with laughter after many days. The very next day, Rajiv suggested to his father and wife, "Let's go to Delhi. We'll spend a few days there and enjoy some time together." A few days later, the three of them left for Delhi. Rajiv had rented a large house there, and they all started living there comfortably. One day, Rajiv said to his father, "Tonight we, the two of us, are going out to explore the city." Hearing this, Mohan Lal became a little upset and said, "And what will I do here alone? I'll be left all by myself." Rajiv gently replied, "Father, don't worry at all. I've arranged for a maid to stay with you. She will be with you all the time." Mohanlal thought for a moment and then said, "Son, this old phone is of no use to me anymore. It doesn't have good internet, nor can I talk properly on it. I need a new smartphone so that I can spend my time." He took out some money from his pocket and handed it to his son. Rajiv immediately went to the market and bought a new smartphone, handing it to his father, saying, "Here, father. Now you can see everything in the world. Videos, news, everything is at your fingertips." Rajiv and Sanjana went out to explore, leaving Mohanlal with the maid. A few days later in the evening, Mohanlal was sitting on the sofa trying out the new phone. He opened Instagram for the first time and started watching videos. Suddenly a video of a young woman appeared, and she was giving out her mobile number. After a brief hesitation, Mohanlal quickly copied the number and called her. They began talking, and Mohanlal shyly said, "Daughter, you are very beautiful. Your smile touches my heart." Hearing this, the young woman laughed and was somewhat moved. Soon their long conversations began. Gradually, the young woman started liking this old man. A few days later, as they continued chatting over the phone, Mohanlal invited her to his house, saying, "If you wish, you can come to my house. I would love to meet you." He immediately gave her his address. A few days later, the young woman actually came to Mohanlal's house. When he opened the door, he was surprised to see a young, well-dressed woman standing there. She came inside, and Mohanlal had specially oiled his hair that day to look presentable. Mohanlal, despite being 62 years old, was still trying to appear young in the mirror, lightly applying powder and fragrance on himself. The young woman laughed and asked, "So are you not going to offer me beer?" Mohanlal didn't hesitate for a moment. He immediately took 2 bottles out of the fridge. They both sat facing each other and started drinking beer. The atmosphere lightened and was filled with laughter. After a while, the young woman lowered her gaze and said, "Why don't we go to a hotel? It will be more fun there." Mohanlal hesitated slightly and said, "But this place isn't so bad either." The young woman smiled in a teasing manner and replied, "A hotel is something else. No one will be there to stop us." Eventually, Mohanlal agreed. He called the maid and said, "We're going out. Take care of the house and don't tell anyone about this." The two of them then got into the car and drove straight to a birthday hotel in the city. Once there, they booked a room and entered. Once inside the room, the young woman teasingly asked, "How does it feel to be here?" Mohanlal replied from the depth of his heart, "For the first time, I have met a woman who is taking care of me, trying to make me happy. I feel so lucky." The young woman laughed and said, "That's my job to make you happy, but in return I need a lot of money." Mohanlal laughed and said, "I have a lot of money. Take as much as you want, just stay with me." Then the two of them came closer and crossed the boundaries of their relationship. After a while, the young woman seriously said, "I am ready to marry you." Just then, Mohanlal's phone rang. On the other end was his son, Rajiv, who sternly said, "You need to come home immediately." Mohanlal was startled. He quickly left the room and headed home. Once home, Rajiv angrily asked, "Father, you're talking about getting married at this age. What is all this?" Mohanlal answered firmly, "It's my decision. Whether I get married or not, that's my choice. This money is mine. And as for age, I am not that old. Listen carefully, this house is mine and only my will matters here." With that, Mohanlal slammed the door and went into his room, and the atmosphere became tense. Rajiv, worried, said to his wife Sanjana, "Look, Sanjana, my father is insisting on getting married even at this age. I'm afraid he might bring some new trouble for us." Meanwhile, Mohanlal reached the hotel where the young woman was waiting, and with impatience he said, "Quickly marry me. I can't wait any longer." Without hesitation, the young woman replied, "I'm already ready." Mohanlal looked at the bed and said, "But it's already late. Let's go home. We'll do a court marriage tomorrow." That night, the two of them returned home. After entering the room, Mohanlal spoke to the young woman on the phone again and said in a hopeful tone, "Tomorrow morning we'll do a court marriage." The next morning, Mohanlal got ready with proper arrangements and was about to leave the house when Rajiv stopped him. He said with concern, "Father, what you are about to do is completely wrong. This woman is not good for you. She will ruin you." Mohanlal became furious and shouted, "It's my life, my decision. Whether I get married or not is up to me. Who are you to stop me?" Rajiv calmly replied, My purpose is not to stop you, but to explain. This woman is infamous. She will destroy your dignity and our home." But Mohan Lal did not listen to him and angrily slammed the door as he left. By the evening, Mohan Lal went ahead with the court marriage and brought the young woman home as his wife. The entire atmosphere in the house changed. Rajiv and Sanjana sat in the room staring at each other in shock. Mohan Lal called out to them, "Come, I want to introduce you both to my new wife. See, this is now your mother." The young woman, smiling, said, "Yes, I have a big son and a daughter-in-law too." Rajiv's face was filled with shock and silence. Mohan Lal looked at Sanjana and said, "Daughter-in-law, we are going to our room. Please bring food to us there." In the evening, the young woman happily said, "Today is our first day of marriage. Let's eat at a hotel to celebrate." The two of them went to the hotel again, booked a room and spent the night there. The next morning, when Rajiv peeked into his father's room, it was empty. His heart sank. After a while, Sanjana brought tea, and at that moment, Mohan Lal returned with his new wife and went straight to his room. Inside the room, the young woman, in a playful tone, said, "I need to go first. I also have to do some shopping." Mohan Lal immediately took out money from his pocket and gave it to her. Rajiv, watching all this with his own eyes, angrily told his wife, "This woman will ruin father. She will come up with new excuses every day, sometimes to go to a hotel, sometimes for jewelry, sometimes for shopping. How long will father tolerate all this?" With determination, Rajiv went straight to his father's room and told the young woman, "My father will keep tolerating your every whim. You'll go to hotels, you'll get money for shopping, but how long will this go on?" Hearing this, Mohan Lal exploded in anger and shouted, "This is my wife. And Rajiv, she is your mother. She hasn't asked for money. I have willingly given her the money. Who are you to question me?" The young woman, joining in, said, "Yes, and let me tell you all, we have married in court. Now I am the mistress of this house." Upon hearing this, the atmosphere became even more tense. Mohan Lal called Sanjana and said, "Daughter-in-law, take your husband to the room. Explain to him that he should not bother me or my wife." Sanjana silently took Rajiv to their room. Meanwhile, Mohan Lal and the young woman opened a bottle of alcohol and sat together. Now and then, the young woman teasingly said, "How was your son speaking to you?" "It's better to throw Rajiv and his wife out of this house. After all, this house belongs to you. What does he do for you? He only questions your decisions." Mohan Lal, with intoxicated eyes, looked at her and said, "You are absolutely right. You are a very wise wife." Meanwhile, Rajiv, sitting in the room, said to Sanjana, "I have to go abroad again in a few days, but I'm really worried about you and father." "This woman will ruin him." Sanjana sighed and said, "Yes, if my mother-in-law were alive today, we would never have to see this day. But don't worry, I'll take care of father." She then went to the kitchen, but before leaving, she quietly went to her father-in-law's room and softly said, "Father, I'm going to make tea for Rajiv. I thought I should check with you first." But before Mohan Lal could say anything, the young woman quickly said, "Yes, yes, daughter-in-law. Please bring us tea too." Sanjana silently made the tea and went to her father-in-law's room, placing it on the table. Then she came back and handed the tea to her husband and softly told him, "Father and that woman are sitting in her room, drinking beer." Rajiv gritted his teeth and said, "Wasn't father drinking alone before? Now he's drinking with her. As soon as morning comes, we will make a decision. Either we stay in this house or she will." That night, the maid made dinner and placed it on the dining table. Rajiv and Sanjana sat down together to eat. Then Rajiv said to the maid, "Take food to father in that woman's room." The maid placed the food on a tray and went to their room. Upon seeing the scene, she was also surprised. Mohan Lal and the young woman were both drunk. Mohan Lal, in a slurring tone, said to the maid, "Listen, take special care of my new mistress from now on." The maid silently returned. Rajiv and Sanjana, tired, went to their room and went to sleep. The next morning, when the sun rose, Rajiv was already awake, sitting in distress. Sanjana handed him tea and he said in an angry tone, "Today everything will be settled. Either we will stay in this house or that girl will. A decision will be made today." Just then Mohan Lal and the young woman came out of the room. Mohan Lal called to his daughter-in-law, "Sanjana, daughter, bring us tea." Sanjana poured tea into the cup and handed it to her father-in-law. At that moment, the Instagram girl smiled and said, "Your daughter-in-law is so good." Then she said, "Listen, Sanjana, today we will have lunch at a hotel." Rajiv heard this too. He exploded in anger. "Father, how long will this daily spectacle continue? You go to hotels every day. Whatever this woman says, you do it. Have you really handed over your entire life to her? Anyway, in a few days I'll go back abroad. What will happen to you then?" Mohan Lal's face turned red. He shouted angrily, "Rajiv, if you're so troubled, take your wife and leave. This woman is my wife and this house is mine. I fulfill my expenses with my pension. You don't need to stay here anymore. From today, you both leave my house. And remember, never come back." Rajiv's heart sank, but he said firmly, "Okay, father, we will leave right now. But remember, this woman will ruin your life. You will regret this decision tomorrow." The Instagram woman sitting in the corner of the room overheard everything. She laughed and said, "What is this? You two, father and son, are fighting. If this is because of me, then I will leave." Mohan Lal immediately raised his hand and said, "No, why would you leave? These two will leave. Rajiv and Sanjana, you both leave my house right now." Rajiv's heart was shattered, but Sanjana held his hand and said, "Let's go. We won't stay in this house anymore." They went to their room. Sanjana took out a bag and started packing. She said in a weak voice, "Rajiv, where will we stay?" "This house is no longer ours," Rajiv replied in a tired voice. "Now there's only one way left. We'll go back abroad. Father has severed ties with us himself." Tears filled Sanjana's eyes. She softly said, "But what will happen to father?" Rajiv, with a painful smile, replied, "Father has made it clear today that we are strangers to him. Now this house is his, not ours." They picked up their bags and quietly left the house. As the door closed, Sanjana looked back one last time at the house, as if bidding farewell to years of memories. Time passed and Rajiv and Sanjana returned abroad. Meanwhile, Mohan Lal began living alone with his new wife. Sometimes they would sit at home and drink beer. Other times they would go out to eat at hotels. The maid would watch all of this with her own eyes and silently regret. But one day an incident occurred that shocked Mohan Lal to the core. It was evening time. Mohan Lal called the maid and said, "Listen, make some tea for us." The Instagram woman smiled and said, "Today I'll make tea for you." Saying this, she went into the kitchen and told the maid, "You go. I'll handle everything today." The maid silently left the room. The woman quickly made the tea and added a sedative to it. Mohan Lal, in bliss, drank the tea. After a few sips, he said, "Wow, today's tea is amazing." Within moments, his eyes grew heavy and he lay down on the bed and fell asleep. The young woman, seeing the opportunity, opened the wardrobe. She packed all the jewelry and cash into a bag and quietly slipped out of the house. By the time Mohan Lal woke up in the night, the room was in disarray. He looked around, but the young woman was gone. He opened the wardrobe and found it empty. The jewelry and money were all gone. He panicked and called the young woman, but her phone was switched off. When the maid came into the room, Mohan Lal, in panic, asked, "Where is she?" The maid replied, "Sir, last evening she said she would make the food herself. She told me to leave." Hearing this, Mohan Lal held his head in despair and immediately went to the police station. There he cried in front of the inspector and said, "Sir, that woman tricked me into marriage. Then last night she drugged my tea, made me unconscious, and ran away with all my jewelry and money." The inspector asked coldly, "How old do you think she is?" Mohan Lal, embarrassed, said, "About 25 years old." The inspector laughed sarcastically and said, "You are 62 and you married a 25-year-old woman? Didn't you realize that it was all a scam?" "Anyway," the inspector continued, "I will file a report." Mohan Lal returned home after the report was filed. His heart was sinking. He kept calling the woman, but her number was off. At that moment, he remembered his son Rajiv's words. This woman would ruin him. The maid said, "Sir, now you should tell everything to your son and daughter-in-law." Mohan Lal sighed deeply and said, "On the advice of that woman, I wronged Rajiv and Sanjana. I don't know if they will forgive me or not." He immediately picked up the phone and called Rajiv. Meanwhile, Rajiv and Sanjana were sitting at their home abroad. The phone rang and Rajiv answered. With a stern tone, he said, "Father, what else is left to settle?" Mohan Lal's voice trembled as he said, "Son, I am not worthy of forgiveness, but late or early, I accept that I made a big mistake. Please forgive me and your mother for the wrong I did. That woman deceived me." Rajiv harshly replied, "Father, we are no longer concerned with your new marriage or the story of betrayal. You threw us out of the house. There is no relationship left between us now. Hearing this, Mohanlal's heart broke. Tears flowed from his eyes. He then said to Sanjana on the phone, "Daughter-in-law, you have to explain to your husband." "Forgive me," Sanjana replied in a soft tone. "Father-in-law, I will try to explain to Rajiv, but the wound you caused is very deep." After ending the call, Mohanlal collapsed onto a chair. He thought to himself that in his greed for youth he had lost his respect, his son and his daughter-in-law. The woman he had married had tricked him and run away. In the end, he was left alone, thinking deeply. The magic of wealth and youth is just a deception of time. True support is found in family. Those who abandon their relationships are left with nothing but loneliness.